This is the video about the Bank of New York's involvement with Hitler and the Nazis in the 1930s, before World War II. And one can imagine what might have been, what really probably were, the consequences, intended or otherwise, as a result of their involvement with the Nazis after World War II. So, everybody knows, if you've read any history book at all, on any level, you know that the United States went through a period of time which was called the Great Depression. And from about 1929 to 1933, the country suffered one of the worst economic depressions in its history. It was not long after 1933, I imagine, that the Bank of New York and State Street Bank, I can't remember if it's the Five and Dime Bank or a couple of others for sure, that were involved with the Nazis. They were financing and facilitating contracts for Hitler and the Nazis in the 1930s. This is long before any plan to exterminate the Jews came about. But notwithstanding, a lot of these contracts were what helped America come out of the Depression. So when Hitler attacked Czechoslovakia and Poland and entered into a war with France and England and Russia, basically, and the Axis of Germany and Italy and Japan entered into a war worldwide against a whole bunch of countries, the United States remained neutral. You have to understand, the president at the time was named Franklin Delano Roosevelt. A nice German name, right? Roosevelt. How about Hoover? Yeah. How about Eisenhower? How about Nixon and Bush and Trump? All nice German names, right? What the hell? How did that happen? So, it was the Japanese that made the grave mistake of attacking Pearl Harbor. Because really, President Roosevelt didn't want to go to war. He wanted to stay out of the war. The Nazi contracts were lucrative, by the way. Those Nazi contracts were what helped Nazi Germany get the ingredients for Zyklon B and mustard gas and other things that they used on the Jews. So, when the Japanese made that grave mistake of attacking Pearl Harbor, they unexpectedly brought the United States crashing into the World War. Oh, another reason why the United States didn't want to go into war was because their light armored division in the Army, because the United States Army at that point in like 1938 and 1939, the United States Army was like nothing. It was just a piece of crap. And light armored division was actually made up of horses. Yeah, light armored my butthole. So then, I'll change the perspective here for a minute. How's it going? Yeah, it's nice here. All right, hold on. So then, the banks had to give up their contracts, and other American companies too, that were associated with the banks. And the damage had already been done. The contracts had already been fulfilled. Nazis and Hitler had the ingredients they needed in the financial flow to go and exterminate Jews, Gypsies, and actually the Greeks suffered some of the worst casualties of World War II out of anybody. I think it was something like 5 million Greeks. So between my different ancestries, yeah, I'm probably pretty not too happy with the Germans. I'm making this video because recently the bank hired a new lawyer to attack me and try to muzzle me and intimidate me into silence. and he called me an anti-Semite. And I told him, no, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm an anti-evil Semite. I'm an anti-organ stealing, trafficking Semite. I'm an anti-money laundering Semite. I'm an anti-pedophile Semite. That's what I told him. And I don't think the bank should be accusing anybody of being an anti-Semite, because the bank participated and funded one of the worst exterminations against the Jews in the history of humanity. So I think the bank should shut its frickin' mouth. That's what I think. And I think if you're going to use some Jeff Epstein type lawyer tactics against me, like Jeff Epstein's lawyers tried to silence his victims by sending intimidating letters and threatening legal action and whatever, I think before you do any of that crap, you should fucking look at my face. Because I'm not a little girl that Jeff Epstein diddled. And when you steal $325 million from me and my family, you're in big fucking trouble. And when you accuse me of being an anti-Semite, when you participated in one of the worst exterminations against the Jews in the history of our world, man, you are fucking one big fat liar. And you can send any fucking lawyer you want after me. I give a fucking shit. And when you threaten taking my fucking attachable assets away from me, good fucking luck. I don't have any. So go ahead, get a howitzer out to fucking blow a fly out of the fucking air. See if it works. Because it ain't going to work. And in fact, my prediction is, because of the bank's activities in this world, of destroying the world by screwing up its resources and stealing from the world's people, all for its own evil purposes, and people like the lawyer that represents the bank, because if you represent evil, that makes you evil too. My prediction is for people like Peter Raymond and the bank's employees and whoever else lives in New York, that probably within a year or two, you won't have a house or an office or a court of law to practice in because of the bank's very own activities. Mark my words. Pretty soon, maybe New York's not going to be a viable city. It'll be underwater when those two huge icebergs fall into the ocean and make the sea level rise 7 meters. There won't be a New York. Say bye-bye, thanks to the bank's activities of creating global warming. So don't talk to me about exterminating the Jews, and don't talk to me about threatening anybody with anything, because you're probably not going to have a court of law to even practice a case in a couple of years. Go figure. Take that to the bank.